What's good, peeps? What is good? I'm filming this pretty late. It's just gone 11:30 in the evening, so that's Monday evening. Just because I'm super busy tomorrow and I wanted to put a video up. So as you're watching this right now, I'm super busy. I'm out there in the world doing busy shit. But I really wanted to get a video up today being Tuesday, if this is confusing anyone. Hopefully it isn't. So I thought, you know what, let's just quickly film before I go to bed, and then I can upload it in the morning. So let's crack on. Before we crack on and talk all things boxing, a quick one about my Patreon account. Firstly, thank you to everyone that is a Patreon, a member. I really do appreciate it. Thank you very, very much. You would know if you are a patron that the stories I've been sort of telling you guys so far on the podcast have all been about me. So it's been about my life journey from growing up to Sky Sports to CNN, everything about me basically, from all my fucking shitty workplace I used to work for. I've run out of those stories. So what we're gonna do now is I've got a friend on board called Dom, a very good friend, and we're gonna start doing a podcast about everything. And what I like about this guy is that he's so different from me. His upbringing's different, his background's different, just very, very different. We just met in the gym and we clicked. And I thought, you know what, let's just do podcasts with each other. He's keen, so I'm looking forward to it. We're gonna try and do a few tomorrow evening, late tomorrow evening, and they're gonna go up on the Patreon straight away. So that's gonna be the Patreon going forward. It will probably change again just because I do like to keep things fresh and keep mixing things up. So we are gonna change again, but that's gonna be the Patreon going forward for now, just because I've run out of those life stories, right? There is nothing more I can tell you that you don't know. I feel like you guys know absolutely everything about me. So that's going to be the Patreon going forward. And again, thank you to everyone that is a patron. I honestly, I do appreciate it, especially in times like this where every fucking penny counts. So for those people that are dropping money, fuck me. Honestly, I appreciate it. All right, before we talk boxing, you guys can use the timestamps to fast forward if you want, although I don't think you should, because this is about small businesses and we do need to support small businesses. I feel like I need to sort this out properly because I am getting tons of emails now from people that watch the channel that also have small businesses. But I feel like a lot of that is going to my junk mail rather than my proper email. And it's getting mixed up with those people that are pretending I've won the lottery asking for $1 million or some shit. You know those emails you get? Do people actually even respond to those emails? Like sometimes I read those emails and actually respond to them trying to take the piss. And it's like, come on, right? You know, sorry, this is so random, but you get some of them, they're like, what do they say? Stuff like, you're the beneficiary of random numbers, or $4.3 million. If you don't mind sending me your account details, I can forward you the money. Okay. Why don't they be realistic and say something like, you're the beneficiary of 500 quid? That might tempt me. I'm like, oh, makes sense, right? I mean, I must know someone that passed away and they might have written my name in a will. $4.3 million. Anyway, so we're going to get that sorted so I can get all these small businesses a shout out because that's what I promised. Let's see if we can find a couple quickly and do them before we talk boxing. This one is from Urban Flyers. What do they do? Urban Flyers is a renowned aerial videography and workshop organization based in London, United Kingdom. We are especially known for delivering drone and robotics workshops across schools, youth clubs, and inclusion centers. I like that. A bit more about this. Our commercial operations include land surveying, mapping, aerial surveillance, security, inspections, real estate, golf courses, agriculture, weddings, and special events. They're ticking every box. And that's an email from Simon Melbourne, who's the company director. So that's Urban Flyers. Go and check them out if you guys need anything related to what I've just said. Let's see if we can do one more. Again, I feel like I've got so many in, but they're coming in, some to my junk, some to my proper email. I might need to set just an email address up for this. All right, what's this one? This one is from, what's this? This is from Tremaine Worth. What does he do? Rave at home, save lives by 23 degrees. And what's this? Hi, Ade. Hope you're well. Been following your channel for over a year now. Appreciating you shouting out other businesses. I'm a UKG DNB promoter. Similar scenario to live sports, as we will be the last ones to open, unfortunately. During lockdown, I've started to support our regular artists even more and use my platform to release their music for a good cause. We work alongside our regular residents by raising money for NHS and soldiers, with the first release with all proceeds being donated. My brand, 23 Degrees, is below with Facebook and Bandcamp link for anyone who chooses to donate. There you go, and that's from Tremaine. So, yeah, you heard it. If you can, or if you're interested, have a look. You know what it is? I always say this. So anything that I'm shouting out, just go and have a look. Go and have a look. If it's something for you, support, buy, donate, purchase, whatever. If it's not, it's not, right? I mean, it's not the end of the world, but I think all we can do is at least go and have a look. I go and look at all these things just because, you know what? Who knows? It might be something I'm interested in. If it's not, it's not. I mean, there's no gun to your head. All right, let's talk boxing now, people. Let's see what we can talk about. All right, Saunders hopes for Demetrius Andrade or Callum Smith in 2020. This is interesting, right? Just because, again, we thought Callum Smith was going to do the Canelo route. That now, all of a sudden, it's just weird how that's just not like being spoken about. I mean, I can imagine behind the scenes, there's a lot of conversation going on, right? Between Oscar and Golden Boy, DAZN, and Joe Gallagher and Matchroom and whoever else it is, Sky Sports. There must be so much going on, but it just seems as though it was hot 10 days ago. Now it's pretty warm to the point where I think it might go cold again, which is strange. If Callum Smith doesn't fight Canelo, then I don't know. We're listening, so we're hearing that crowds could come back in October. So Callum Smith versus Billy Joe Saunders might be likely for, I don't know, late 2020, right? When maybe 5,000 or 6,000 are allowed back in. Even if crowds aren't allowed back in, Callum Smith versus Billy Joe Saunders over here, people ain't going to want to hear this, but it's true. It's a pay-per-view fight. It's a pay-per-view fight. That only happens if it's pay-per-view, right? So that fight's likely. Demetrius Andrade is likely as well. Can Demetrius Andrade travel over here? If he can, look, if he can, it's a bigger fight over here than it is Billy Joe Saunders traveling to America. It is. And I think Demetrius Andrade will have to travel because he'll be challenging Billy Joe for his 168 belt. Billy Joe's not getting down to 160 anytime soon. So let's just see. Right now, a lot of talking's happening and not many fights are being made. I mean, to be fair, Showtime are putting on some decent fights, but everywhere else, it's kind of like just a lot of talking. Let's see what happens in the next sort of 3 to 4 months. Matchroom Fight Camp. I need to do a video on that. I'm going to try and do an Addy and Friends, which I promised, I know, for ages, this week. I'm going to Bristol on Thursday, back on Friday. So we'll try and get one done on Wednesday if possible. But yeah, I want to do a little breakdown about the first week's fights. There's a couple of good fights on there. Egerton Cheeseman's on there. Reece Bellotti, Jordan Gill's on that one, I think, as well. So a couple of decent fights, and we'll talk about those in more depth on Addy and Friends. If not on Addy and Friends, I'll just talk about them myself and give them my marks out of 10 and predictions, etc., etc. I'm shit at predictions, but we'll see what we can do. All right, what have we got next? Joe DeGuardia. For small promoters, no TV deal equals no fights. He promotes Carlos Takam as well, I believe, or manages or promotes Carlos Takam. Yeah, right. If you're a small promoter, right, who puts on small hall shows which solely rely on gate receipts, I mean, if you haven't got a TV deal, you're not fighting. It's that simple. I mean, the only way they can really work is if they do shows and chuck them on pay-per-view at heavily reduced price, like, I don't know, a tenner or something. I mean, but if you haven't got a big name, and a lot of these small hall shows don't have big names, who's going to pay a tenner? Even though that's good money, who's going to pay a tenner? Who's even going to pay a $5, right? I mean, some people will. Hardcore boxing fans that just want to see boxing will, but will that be enough to pay the fighters? And not only that, but a massive problem for a lot of these promoters as well is fight insurance, especially in New York. New York, the fight insurance is huge. It's a huge amount of money. So even if you can put a decent card together and maybe chuck it on pay-per-view to the point where you think, you know, you got one name on there, people might tune in and drop their $10 or $15. The insurance costs are just ridiculous to the point where there's just no point. There's just no point. So I guess what a lot of these small hall show managers and promoters have got to do is almost, I don't know, like rent their talent out to guys that are putting on shows, right? Just, I don't know, come to some sort of deal where you get 1 or 2 fight deals, right? And they can go on to, in America, to a Showtime or a Top Rank, or over here to a Frank or Eddie. I mean, it's a shame. A lot of these small hall shows, a lot of these managers and promoters just might die. They might never come back. I mean, this is tough times for them. Tough. Man. And, you know, there's a lot of boxing promoters, like hundreds out there that don't have TV deals, but have been able to operate just on ticket sales, right? They've been able to kind of find that guy that sells a lot of tickets, not a huge amount of tickets, by the way, because remember, these small hall shows are only sort of 1,000, 2,000 capacity, 3,000 max, but they've got a guy that can maybe move 1,000, 2,000 tickets. So he would always headline the show, and that's how they've operated. Or they've got 4 or 5 guys that can do 300, 400 tickets a piece, and that's just how they survived. Now, nothing, right? Absolutely nothing. And now even those guys to top promoters mean nothing. Where they might have snatched one of those guys before, just because they know those guys can move tickets, now their value is very minimal. It's nothing actually, because no one's moving tickets. You know, there were some fighters, I'm not going to mention names, obviously Eddie put on shows just because those guys were ticket sellers, not because they were great boxers, just because they were ticket sellers. You guys know what I'm talking about. Well, those guys right now, they're just worth nothing. Nothing, right? I mean, yeah, they're ticket sellers, but they're not pay-per-view fighters, right? No one's going to pay to watch them like that. You might go, might go to the arena or anything to watch them, leisure center, but you're not going to pay to watch them on TV. And Eddie couldn't put those guys on pay-per-view because we would go crazy. So those guys are out in the wild right now, mate. Tough times. Tough times. All right, what's this one? A Glowacki, Okolie vacant title fight targeted for Joshua-PULEV card. It's been a while, man. This fight has been spoken about for ages. There's talk about it being on a GGG card. There's talks about it. About Okolie having to travel to Chicago to fight Glowacki for that cruiserweight world title. Now it's been targeted for a Joshua-PULEV card, but we don't even know when a Joshua-PULEV card is. No? I mean, I don't know. Are they going to do Joshua-PULEV behind closed doors with no fans? Such a difficult one, man. Because you just know you lose out on a huge gate. Huge. Like, this is, have a guess at what's AJ's gate? Like, I'm going to bring out a calculator here. Like, if we're talking sort of 65,000 at Tottenham, whatever their arena is, what's the average price of a ticket, AJ? 100 quid? It's a bit more than that, actually, the average. I mean, the cheap ones are 50, but it gets a bit more expensive. But, oh boy, you're looking at a 6.57 million gate. That pays for the whole undercard and a lot of PULEV. Right? So that's how, like, you need to, AJ needs the crowd. AJ needs a crowd. It's just too much money. It's far too much money to kind of say, no, we're just not gonna do it. We're gonna do it behind closed doors. It's far too much money. It's even more than that. I think I lowballed that figure. I think AJ's gate's a lot more than that. I think the average price of a ticket is more than 100 quid. I don't know, man. I don't know. What's this? Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones presents boxing with a moral dilemma. Yes, it does. Because look, I was sitting on this famous green chair, and it is famous, by the way, saying Nigel Benn should never come back, right? I mean, I'm a big Nigel Benn fan. I was like, no, don't want him to come back. And here we've got Mike Tyson, who is showing us a couple of 60-second clips coming back, and everyone's like, yeah, versus Roy Jones Jr., who, let's be honest, is not Roy Jones Jr. anymore. Roy Jones Jr. in name, and that's it, right? But we're excited for it. I've said that it's going to do good numbers. You know what I mean? It's gonna tick all those boxes, right? Everyone's going crazy for this fight, and people are going crazy, and not just the boxing world. I mean, I watch so many different other bits, and people in different platforms, like random shit, are talking about Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. just because of Mike mainly. So it does offer this weird sort of dilemma, moral dilemma. Like, why do we want to see it? What is it? Is it fighting? Is that what it is? We just love to see fights. Like, because I wouldn't have any interest in any other sports person coming back and doing their thing. Like, I wouldn't care. Like, if Michael Jordan said he's going to have a one-on-one with Hakeem Olajuwon, okay, cool. You know, no, all right. But Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones, and I'm fucking like excited for it. And it's wrong to be excited for it. These guys are way past their best. Way past their best. You know, Mike Tyson is, what's he, 53, going to be 54. Mike Tyson was in his pomp, in his peak at 22. So 21, 22, 23. 30 years ago. Roy Jones was in his peak 15 years. Like, what are we doing? Like, this shouldn't be allowed, but it's going to be allowed because it makes money and because this is boxing. Persoon, Katie Taylor hits, runs and grabs. Hope she fights me. I think she kind of did fight the first time round. I'm not having that hits, runs and grabs. That was a war last time round. Don't act like Katie Taylor was on her bike. She wasn't on her bike. She stood and trade. Yes, there were some times where she got on her toes and started moving. That's boxing. This is a boxing match, you know. You can do that. But I'm not having the idea that she was somehow sort of running away from you. That was a war, and I think this one won't be that. I think Katie Taylor's going to be a bit smarter this time in order to get... I think it could be a lot different from what people are expecting. I think people, as soon as it was announced that Persoon was fighting Katie Taylor, people were obviously excited because of how good the first fight was. It's going to look nothing like that. I'd be shocked if it does. I think Katie Taylor's going to be smart with this one, just because what they want to do. I don't think Serrano's going to happen again. I think that's it. I can't see them going down that route. I think they're just going to go down or try and go down the Cecilia Braekhus route. Right, she's fighting McCaskill, and I think they're going to try and meet at a catch weight of 140, and that's a super fight. That's a super fight. So I think she's going to play it safe. She doesn't want no injuries, wants to look good. She'll do it. Almost very, very reminiscent to how AJ fought Ruiz. I think she'll do that. It's going to be boring for the fans, but it's going to be job done. Move on to what I think will be Cecilia Braekhus. I can't see McCaskill beating Braekhus at all. What else have we got here? Frank Warren warns that DUBOIS-JOYCE could be postponed again. Frank Warren basically just wants that gate receipt money. I read this article, and Frank made it seem like he wants an atmosphere in there. Both fighters need an atmosphere to get going, just because he says even if, like, the O2 Arena says, or the government allows 4,000 to be in the O2 Arena just because of the spacing, it might even be less than that when they eventually work out the separation of seats. It might be like 3,000. He says that's not going to be enough. That's not an atmosphere. I'll tell you now, that kind of is an atmosphere. 3,000. 3,000 is an atmosphere, even in a big arena like that. But I just think, again, it comes down to gate receipts, right? The average ticket price, and let's do it again. Let's have a look at, again, this is just guessing, I don't know. But I think that fight would sell out. I think it will do 20,000. So let's say the average ticket price is 80 quid. I think, no, yeah, that's 80 quid. What do you think? A bit more than that? That's a 1.6 million gate. Yeah, no. I don't know how much both of them are getting paid. Do you think both of them will get paid over $1 million? It's a lot of money. But I don't know if they're going to get paid that much. I can see them getting paid 800,000-900,000 each. Don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure. But it's on pay-per-view, right? So that will come into consideration. But that gate could go a long way in paying both of their fees. A long way, right? Or at least it pays all the undercard and a portion of either one of those fees. So that's why it's not about atmosphere. It's about just, you know, we've got to pay. We've got to pay. And I don't know how well that fight does on pay-per-view. I don't know. Both of them are not known to the casual audience. I always feel like for a pay-per-view to do really well, it needs the casual audience to be really engrossed. And I don't think they are. Boxing fans are, but again, for a pay-per-view to spike, casual fans need to be fully on board. And I always know when casual fans don't know boxers, because I've got a lot of friends of mine that are casual boxing fans, and they don't really know either person, so they're not tuning in. And I always know if a fight's going to be big by when they start asking me questions. They might, right, depending upon how Dubois looks in his next fight and they start to build it up a bit more, but I doubt they will, just because neither of them talk. Have we got anything else to talk about? Alexander Povetkins says, I don't see Dillian Whyte fight as my last chance. I don't like that talk. That already makes me feel like he thinks he's going to lose and he's already thinking, what next? I think it will be his last chance, if I'm honest with you. Well, it depends how the fight goes, right? If a fight's a war, Chisora Whyte won, for example. To be fair, look, Povetkin, if he does lose, then becomes a very good gatekeeper. My only reason why I think it would be his last chance is because of his age. If Povetkin was 35 and lost to Dillian Whyte, then I think Povetkin's a fantastic gatekeeper for a few years for a lot of these heavyweights that we want to see what happens next to them. Hrgovic, Yoka, Ajagba, Dubois, etc. But because he's 40, when's he going to be 41? Oh, look. Povetkin's 41 September. Yeah, that's why I think people think is his last chance. Although heavyweights, he looks in good nick. He's not had that many wars. But, well, has he? Joshua was a bad one and so was Klitschko. But that's not too many, was it? I don't know. He can still go in for a couple of years, right? And again, a very, very good and dangerous gatekeeper. If he loses to Dillian Whyte, does he fall out the top 10 for you? I think he's still there or thereabouts. But we'll see. De La Hoya, fight fans will finally respect Ryan Garcia after he beats Campbell. I feel like it's a dig there as well. It's almost like he knows and understands they don't respect Ryan Garcia yet. But I don't know if that's what you want your promoter to be saying, if I'm honest with you. Let's see. Again, it's a lot of talk, isn't it? Let's just get this fight on. Let's see what happens. I think fight fans will respect him even if he fights Campbell, just because we want to see him step up. And I think a lot of us will know that's a step up. So let's see what he does. There's this Vergil Ortiz, Ryan Garcia thing going on, isn't there, with Oscar De La Hoya right now. I don't know who I think could go further. I think Vergil Ortiz is better, but I think 147's pretty scary. Pretty scary. It really is scary, that division. Even the ones that people think are maybe not what they were. So the Danny Garcias of the world. I mean, Danny Garcia, people need to put a bit of respect on that name. Danny Garcia, yes, he had a couple of taking the piss fights against the likes of Rod Salka. But I'll tell you now, he was not supposed to beat Lucas Matisse, beat him. Was not supposed to beat Amir Khan as well, by the way, beat him. Just go and look at the odds in both of those fights. Wasn't supposed to win both of those fights. Good fighter. And even the ones that he's lost, so Sean Porter and Keith Thurman, I mean, close fights, man. Close fights. He's just been unlucky. It's going to be an interesting fight between him and Spence, if it happens. That's not a one-way street at all. You know, I expect him to cause Spence some problems just because his right hand's a laser. I'm telling you, it's a laser. He doesn't have the best foot movement, but his right hand, the way he sets up that punch, it and lands. Always lands. I just think he's not big enough for 147, but we'll see. Let's not forget, he is a guy that's come up from 140. I thought 140 was perfect for him. It's not like Crawford's clearly not big enough for 147, really, although he's now into that frame. But Crawford moves, Crawford switch hits. Danny Garcia is very much a one-trick pony. It's one very good trick, by the way, and he can take a punch, which is underrated. No one talks about his chin. Danny Garcia is a good fighter. The reason I mentioned Danny Garcia is because I've seen a lot of Vergil Ortiz versus Danny Garcia talks going back and forth, and a lot of people seem to be, Vergil Ortiz will wash Garcia. People need to relax. People need to relax. I mean, I know Vergil Ortiz beat Vargas, but Danny Garcia washed Vargas a few years back. I mean, Danny Garcia is still legit, man. And I think he will show that if he does fight Spence. Not saying he's going to beat Spence. I'm not saying that at all. I think Spence is a big favourite, but I think he will show that he deserves to still be in the mix. His name still needs to be mentioned as a top 5, top 6 welterweight. All right, guys, I think that's it. I saw Fat Joe do I think it was an Instagram live. Do an Instagram live back in 10 to 12 with Floyd Mayweather yesterday, and he asked Floyd the question about, a lot of people say you thought Pacquiao past his prime. I've always made the argument, by the way, when people make those arguments about, Floyd fought Mosley past his prime, Floyd fought Cotto past his prime, and I always say Floyd wasn't at his prime either. They fought Floyd. The counter argument should be they fought Floyd past Floyd's prime. Floyd wasn't at his prime when he fought Mosley, Pacquiao, Cotto, or any other person. But what I was going to get at was that Fat Joe told Floyd, did you fight Pac-Man at, sorry, people say you didn't fight Pac-Man at his prime, which is true, right? Killer Pac-Man was that Pac-Man that iced Cotto and Hatton. And Floyd said, Floyd started talking about age. Age isn't in any relation to someone's prime. No relation at all, right? I mean, Bernard Hopkins was in his prime, his late 30s, like 40s, right? Age isn't in a relation to it. And I think Floyd tries to deviate sometimes from the answer. And that's why I wish sometimes Max Kellerman or someone could sit him down and ask him these questions. Someone that knows a bit more about boxing, isn't afraid to kind of push the agenda, because Max always talks about him rating Pac-Man's career and pound for pound all-star status over Floyd's. And I think Max needs to sit him down and explain to him, we're not talking about age here. We're talking about, did you fight Pac-Man? Basically, there was a period where Floyd could have fought him and Floyd didn't. Floyd talks about it was maybe due to drug testing, etc., etc. But I think Floyd needs to own that we wanted to see that fight 5 years before it happened. 5 years. And there's a part of me that, look, I still think Floyd is just a better boxer, but there's a part of me that thinks that Pac-Man, the Hatton Cotto Pac-Man, causes Floyd all types of trouble. All types. But I don't know. That's just me. What do you guys think? Anyway, vid's done. Good night, people. I say good night. Good night to me. Good morning to you. Peace. And nearly done.